welcome to the Silver Lyming. My name is Anne Desjardins. I am your host and creator of this podcast, specifically to help spread hope for people going through Lyme and tick-borne illness and their journey towards healing and wellness, and also just to raise awareness. I know that not everyone who's listening has actually experienced what Lyme and tick-borne illness is, and if you are one of those fortunate people, I will pray for you that it stays that way forever and ever and ever and ever, that you never ever have to experience this. I was just talking to someone about this last night actually, and they were like, yeah, I've heard it's a really hard thing to get through. It's a really big challenge. And that's just like, yes, that's to put it kindly. And we often say in the Lyme world, you don't get it until you get it, because trying to explain what your body is experiencing to those who have never experienced it is difficult. And even being as well as I am now, years later, it's almost hard for me to remember all of the symptoms, which I'm really thankful for. Like, to me, that's a real mark of healing, but like trying to even remind myself about what it was like can be hard, and let alone, again, encompassing those feelings to another person. And I've been doing some research, which is nothing out of the ordinary for me. I was just reading a little bit more about healing Lyme and tick-borne illness from an Ayurvedic perspective, and I came across a really interesting article that was talking about epigenetics. And this is not a new concept to me. I've come across epigenetics through people like Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza. And if you're not familiar with those two teachers, I would encourage you to check them out. But epigenetics is more the thought that maybe we're born with a certain genetic makeup, but it's the actual it's the things that we come into contact with that will activate those genes or not, in our lifestyle and different things that we have come into contact with. And so I often think about people with Lyme and how no two people are really ever the same. Everyone experiences symptoms differently. And maybe that's truly the ticket, is that it is really more a means of epigenetics as to how it gets expressed in the body. And there's a lot of things, again, that come into that equation. Hereditary is a bad word here. I think what I'm trying to explain is, like, we have cell memory, and that can be passed genetically or through generations to the body. And so maybe your great grandparents were exposed to something and that carried over into you, and that already gave you a certain weak point in the body, if you will. And then we have different stressors. We have different environmental factors that we're exposed to, different viruses, different things that trigger and activate things. And so our nutrition, all this plays into how our genes will actually express themselves. And I think that's really more getting to the root of it for people. And again, why so many people have different experiences with this. Some people will test really high for exposure to Lyme and tick-borne illness and have zero symptoms. Other people have very few markers, but will experience all the symptoms. And so, again, to me, that makes a lot of sense in actually getting to the root cause of what is happening with people. And I often find with people, and I'm not sure about my guest today, we'll see with her story, but a lot of people have trauma, right? Different trauma that has happened to them. And again, this is going with the epigenetics theory. And that really was more the catalyst. I know it is in my own personal story. A lot of people that reach out to me for help, if they're actually being open and vulnerable with me, which many people are by now because they're desperate for help, but they all have stories of trauma leading up to their sickness. And so just be careful, be mindful of that fact. And if you're going through a stressful period in life, or you have some trauma happening, some abuse, some different things like that, make sure that you're getting proper support. Make sure that you're actually dealing with these issues before they begin to express themselves on a physical level for you. When our soul is taxed incredibly, it just opens the door wide for different illnesses, different diseases to come into our lives from a physical perspective. So I just want, again, to remind you to take care of your soul health. That's just as important as your physical health. But at any rate, that is my tip for you for today's show. And the guest that I have is somebody that I've met through social media. I'm really excited to have her here with me, Arden Henderson. Thank you for being here. She's enlivening me a little bit just because she's so excited to share her story. And I love when I come across people like this who really had a run of things with Lyme and tick-borne illness. And then it was more or less her dream to be able to share with people once she got better what happened to her, for others to be able to learn different things and ideas about potentially how they can help themselves to get better. And so, Arden, thank you very much for reaching out to me. Thank you for being
Well,
vulnerable.
thank you, Anne. Thanks for
And
offering this.
it's truly my honor. And I'm just grateful for people like you again who have gotten better, because that's really the idea, is to show others that it is possible to
It
heal.
is. It is.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So if you don't mind, if you would just share with us a little bit more about yourself and your experience with Lyme and tick-borne illness, please.
Absolutely. So, my experience with Lyme was when I was 49 years old. I had a dental procedure,
Mhm.
actually, in which they removed a root canal tooth, and within 5 or 6 days after that removal, I started experiencing some pretty whacked out symptoms, so to say, things I was not ever familiar with. So my situation was, uh, knowing what I know now, root canals are they harbor spirochetes, they harbor H. pylori, they harbor several viral loads, they harbor many different types of biofilms, but I didn't know that at the time. So after that removal, pretty much, it's fair to say all hell broke loose, really. I started not sleeping, experiencing some weird paresthesia, neurological issues, severe anxiety, severe depression, just a total absolute loss of my life, pretty much. I was in good fortune, actually, to have a Lyme literate doctor in the area. My husband had been dealing with Lyme symptoms really his whole life. And he was seeking out this doctor in the area. And it just so happened to be around the time I had the root canal extraction. And so we just got myself right to this doctor. And she had said to me, I think we need to test you for Lyme. And I thought, this was in January. I had the removal in January. So I thought to myself, I didn't know anything about Lyme. Zero, zilch. It wasn't even on my radar. And so she said, this is something I want to test you for. And so I said, no, that's fine. And keep in mind, this is around COVID too. So that's a whole other thing, which I'm learning about. So the theory that she had was the virus can kind of bring these latent infections to surface. So I took the Igenix. Was it the Igenix test? I can't remember which one it was. So this was in 2021 that I had the removal of the tooth. And so anyway, I got my results back, and I lit up like a Christmas tree. It was CDC positive, which, as you know, Anne, is very, very difficult
Yes.
to achieve.
Yes.
And so many Lyme literate doctors will say, obvious, you know the story. Let's just treat you as if you have Lyme, because chances are it's not going to show up. So luckily or unluckily, but I'm looking back on it thinking, luckily, thank you God, that I went to a Lyme literate doctor and tested positively. So we have a diagnosis, but as you said earlier in your introduction, not one person is the same when it comes to treating Lyme. We have a lot of overlap, and like you had mentioned, the epigenetics, which I wholeheartedly agree with, is part of that play. So we had a diagnosis. Everything that I was doing wasn't working. As a matter of fact, I was getting worse. So it was very discouraging. So luckily she tested hormones, thyroid hormone, sex hormones, and I was just getting into menopause, which is really not the best time to have an infection like Lyme, because as you know, it tanks all your hormones. So she's encouraged me to get on the bioidentical hormones while I was treating the infection. Now, retrospect is 2020. I wish I would have done that. I didn't know enough about hormones. And I thought, oh, I don't need to do that. My body will kick in. What I didn't understand is that the amount of contagion released in that tooth pull was wreaking havoc on my thyroid and my sex hormones. So we kept testing, periodically over like a 6-month interval, and I could see everything dropping in real time. So, thyroid kept dropping, estrogen kept dropping, progesterone, everything went through the floor. So something that would have happened over like a 20-year period for me happened over 6 months, 6 to 12 months. So like I said, everything I was doing wasn't working for me. I was really bad. I had to quit working. But keep in mind, I went from somebody that was a lover of life. I was a runner. I worked out. I was busy. The contrast was so apparent, and it having happened over a 6 to 8 month period, I felt as if I was dying. And I know, talking to other Lyme people, that is kind of a thread, among us. So long story short, I tried almost everything. I went to a place in Tennessee. I was just trying everything I knew to try, and I was open to trying anything. So this happened in January 21. Through Lyme forums, I found out about a place in Mexico that was very familiar with Lyme, mold, the co-infections, all of those. And I was so incredibly sick. I just thought there's no way I could get on a plane and go to Baja California. But I did. I had strength to do that. And so got there, and within, I would say, having my feet on the ground at that property, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to live. I think I'm going to live. And so their approach was hyperthermia, oxidative therapies such as HVOT, ozone, blood irradiation, nutritional IVs, so I was there for a total of 3 weeks. I had 2 hypothermia sessions. After my first hypothermia, I knew I was going to live. I mean, I just knew it. I wasn't cured at that point, but it was as if the veil had lifted and I was connected to my life for the first time in 8 months. Now, that was just a very acute situation. I've come to find out that I am a very small minority of people that happens to, meaning like all of a sudden going from 80 miles an hour to 0, over a 6-month period. But obviously my body was containing that infection. Going back to the root canal, I had a good deal of bone loss. So it was something that my body was keeping contained. So anyway, yeah. So after the first session, I knew that I was going to live. And that hope was just like, okay, I have some hope that I can heal and I will get better. And that's when I started doing the dispensa
Yeah,
meditation.
cool. Hmm.
And I was like, I don't feel this. I don't feel like I'm going to heal. I don't feel it, but I'm going to say it. And I'm going to pretend as if I am healed. And so like the Gupta therapy was really important for me at that point. I did a lot of therapy, but getting back to the original, we can talk about that later. But
Yeah.
I had a lot of like physical like PTSD issues. So yeah, so after Sanoviv, my work, the doctors at Sanoviv said, we're burning down your house and it's up to you to rebuild it. So you have like a series of like detox protocols you do when you get home. Um, I got with a doctor that optimized my hormones, which I found was a huge component. And if I can say one message in all of this, this is something that I would have, if I could change, I would have done that early on, because I think a lot of the infection, that infection brings that cortisol up. It blocks those receptors, so those hormones can't get to the reception sites. And I think it would have eased my symptoms, and it would have given myself, my body, a chance to actually, I could fight the infection and ease the symptoms, which we all know the symptoms are pretty absolutely horrible. So and like you talked about earlier, it was like I try not, I I would journal all these symptoms so that I wouldn't forget, because it's just unreal. I mean, it's just these symptoms are unreal. How can a human body actually experience all these symptoms? So, um, so yeah, so I got back to the States and had a really good team. I did so much research. The nights that I mean, there were many nights where I wouldn't sleep at all because I couldn't sleep. My body couldn't bring that cortisol down. I had no sex hormones, no thyroid. And I would just research. I would madly research. I would just be like, you know what? There's got to be a way to heal. I've got to do this. Um, and so, yeah, so after, I think really that after that first hypothermia and then coming back to the States, getting my team together, getting my knowledge base, getting my exercise of seeing my brain go down this pathway, like I'm not ever healing. This is my life now. It's not worth living. And then just stopping it and going, oh, I see I'm going down that track again. Stopping and looking around, and that was really important. Even though I didn't believe it, just me saying those words got me to where it bridged that part of belief into action. And that was important. That was a huge component. It wasn't everything, but it was huge. And so that happened in 21, and we're just turning 25 now. So almost a new year.
Yep.
So it's been 4 years, and I can honestly say that my life is back even better. And I didn't think I could be back at all. So I just wanted to say that it's possible. It's very possible. Yeah.
It's possible. Like I'm getting emotional just thinking about it because I remember when I got my life back too, and it's like one of my other guests gave me the thought of like, why not picture your life coming out even better than it was before you went in, right? And like so many people are like, I just want my life back. And it's like, no, strike that. New thought. Let's make it even better than it was before this even happened to you. And I'm just so happy for
Absolutely.
you that that's your experience. Like, I have a couple questions that I was thinking about as you were talking. I don't want to cut you off,
Mm.
get you sidetracked on your thought track, but did you take antibiotics?
Oh yeah. Yes. I took the protocol. that was given, kind of developed from the Cleveland Clinic. I took that protocol. Well, I started off with herbal antibiotics, and then I did the pharmaceutical antibiotics. And during hypothermia, they do IV antibiotics. So the whole idea is they shake up those spirochetes and get them out of the white blood cells into the bloodstream, and then they flush the body full of the IV antibiotics. So I did everything. I did absolutely everything. Yeah.
And then for people who are listening that maybe are like, what the heck is hyperthermia? I'm aware of this just through research and things that I've done on my own. And I really heard more about that through Germany, and German medicine, for whatever reason, really talks a lot about that. But
Yes.
can you just tell people really what that is and what happened to you
Yes.
when that happened?
Yes. I have to start off by saying we all know that feeling of like, I'm super sick. I used to think if I could just run a fever, I think I could get this. And I didn't know that hypothermia like existed until I started going down a rabbit hole and everything. So basically, hypothermia is bringing your core temperature, well, not yourself, but through a machine, through actual medical help, bringing your core temperature up. I got to 108.6 twice. I don't think they're doing it that high anymore, but what they're finding is they can do a lower temp and still be effective. Yeah, so basically, hyperthermia is a 4-hour procedure. They monitor you heavily. They hydrate you. They're monitoring your heart. They are just they're in there with you. So I was worried about it, but then I thought about my alternative. It was like, you know what? I'm climbing in this thing, and I'm gonna get my life back. So yeah, so it's basically a 4-hour procedure. And for me, they got me up to 108.6. And the theory is, well, it's not really a theory anymore. It's been proven. Um, it shakes up those spirochetes enough that they get so uncomfortable. And normally they would spin that white blood cell. And that's why testing isn't really reliable, because sometimes they're in the white blood cell, and testing is only reliable when they're in the blood itself. Because they spend, from my understanding, is they utilize the cells for energy, among other things. But that's my understanding. So those high temperatures make those spirochetes and co-infections very uncomfortable, and then they just switch out of the cell, and the heat is something that they use to bring that out and then flush the body with 3 antibiotics, I believe. I don't remember them right now, but yeah, they were pretty high power.
Yeah. And are you awake for this procedure?
Oh, good question. No, you are not awake. You are not awake.
Okay.
It's just like you go right into La La Land. And at the time, I was so happy because I hadn't, for that month, I think I slept like a total of 10 hours for that month that I had hyperthermia. So I was very happy to be put to sleep. I was so happy. Oh my gosh, just to
Yeah.
get any sleep. It was fantastic.
Yeah. And not that I necessarily want to make you relive this, but I'm just curious what your symptoms were for people so that they understand what
No, it's
that
good to
was.
know, because I would scour everybody's sentences to, what's wrong with me? Like, am I just like, what's happening? So, gosh, I have a list. I should have brought it out, but you're right. There is a lot of PTSD related to it. So I had basically a weed whacker inside my body going 24/7. So the vibrations were unrelenting. It would be constant vibrations. That was my number one symptom, along with the extreme nerve pain. And I always describe it as like head on fire. Like I had I wouldn't say a crown of thorns. That would be a friend that I met in Mexico. She had a crown of thorns all the time. It was more like just your head's on fire. Your spinal cord's on fire, your skin, you get paresthesia, you burning, crawling skin. Um, those were like the physical symptoms and the GI issue. Like, so I would often tell people, I feel like I'm caught in a constant state of flight. I can't calm down my vagus nerve. And years later, through the research, I've come to find out that a lot of that is heavy metals. So yeah, makes you wonder, like the epigenetic part that you mentioned, it makes you wonder. So obviously I had a root canal extraction. Going back earlier, I had several amalgam fillings, so you start to like put all these pieces together as you're trying to get better so you can make better decisions for yourself. So a lot of that epigenetic issue, I think for many Lyme sufferers, in my opinion, in my experience, was a heavy metal load and not having those methylated pathways open. So certain MTHFR
There you go.
SNPs were activated. So there's just so much to the story, so much leading up to that part in my life. Yeah, so going back to the hyperthermia component, yeah, so you were definitely asleep,
Yeah.
because even if you are asleep, they still have people crawling out, because 108.6 is pretty darn hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely very high. I think the stuff that I read about was putting people to about 106 degrees. And I'm fascinated in the fact that you brought up about a fever, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
people are always like, a fever is so bad. And I'm like, actually, no, that's your body's natural response to infection, and that's how it gets rid of it. Like
Yes.
eats it up to burn it off. Is
Yes.
best way I can put that. So I forget who I was just talking to about fever and that exact purpose, but
Mm-hmm.
thank you for bringing that up. And again, I don't necessarily want to rehash symptoms, but
Yeah. I have many more symptoms, but those are the ones. Yeah.
yeah.
Or have. I'm going back to I had.
Yeah. But I think you're the first person that I really ever heard say describe it as a weed whacker
Mm-hmm.
inside. Like I've talked to a lot of people, but I don't know if I mean some people have twitching or different things like that. But I don't
Yeah.
know if I've ever heard anybody quite explain it the way that you're
Yeah.
explaining it.
Or like, it's just an internal vibration.
Yeah.
Like when you mow in the summer and you get off the mower, it's that, but a little stronger. Yeah, it was pretty rough. And then you throw the sleep component and then the GI issues. And I mean, I went into Lyme pretty in shape, muscular woman. And when I went to be treated in Mexico, I was 115 pounds. So I went in at 135. And so I lost that much weight over a period of 8 months. So yeah, it was rough. I mean, it was really, really rough.
Yeah. And that's another symptom for people to think about is like sometimes people can't lose weight. Sometimes people lose a ton of weight. Like that's
Yeah.
another thing that gets played on because it's all part of the metabolic system. It's all connected, and the hormonal system is definitely a big component of this too. And um, I, I I know how important that is for our bodies to function adequately and well, and
Hmm.
to transport nutrients and things through our body. And so when that whole thing is compromised, then it just becomes very difficult for the body to function
Yes.
adequately or normally.
Yes.
And so then once you got back to the States, I hear you say that you got a team put in place for yourself and you really
Yes.
started to do some things differently. What kind of support things did you do for yourself? Like did you change your diet? Did you become a yogi? Did you like what
Those
meditate
are
all the time? What kind of things did you do for yourself?
those are great questions. So I went into Lyme as a yogi,
Okay.
as a meditator. So that was kind of second nature. I could bring that back. I had the attention span to bring that back. I mean, the cognitive issues were, I mean, I would just stare at a wall, uh, uh, and just not be able to formulate sentences or thoughts. So I found that that was starting to ease away. Everything was starting to ease away. Once I got the team together, we really worked on detox. A huge part of this healing process for me has been the spiritual, along with the detox and the nutrition, like you said. So I went into Lyme already paleo, grew a lot of my own foods, did a lot of supporting a lot of local agriculture. So that was kind of second nature. So I just picked right back up again. When I started to see changes in my body, I started to actually see my digestion was better because of the infection going away, and replacing the hormones was huge. Optimizing and replacing those hormones. I can't say it. I'll say it again throughout this podcast, but I can't say it enough. That is really key for me. And I think for most women, because we're all over, just from the nature of our cycle, that is, we have three governing hormones. And so at any given time, and as we age, we may just have two, we may just have one. So it's really important to look at that as a whole picture. But anyway, so yeah, the hormone optimization was huge part. And then I did, I don't know, Dr. Pompa's detox. That was instrumental. And all of this, unfortunately, is not covered by insurance. And I'm still paying off the debt, which is okay because where I am, and eventually I will pay that off. So yeah, I'm speaking very highly of Dr. Pompa's detox protocol. That was one of the things, along with hormone optimization, getting me past it was work when I got home. Oh my gosh, saunas, and still ozone therapy to this day. I will never not do ozone therapy. That is something that I really believe in strongly.
Yeah. And when you say ozone therapy, so you're going for HPOT now still?
Not doing the HVAC anymore. We have like a little ozone kit, so we can do ozonated water. I don't do ozonated water. I have some limeys that like that. Kind of upsets my stomach. There's ozonated oil you can use. I just like ozone rectally, like would do like a coffee enema. That's another thing. Coffee enemas. Oh my gosh, coffee enemas were instrumental. Instrumental. Like during the height of Lyme, I would do the coffee enema, and for 5 or 10 minutes, my symptoms would just go away. Everything would just go away. And I was like, you know what? There's something to this. So I learned how to do it right. Taking a binder before is really important. These binders are so important. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot through my own experience. And I will still do these things until I can no longer do them. So it's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for going into that detail because, again, people are constantly asking me like, how did you get better? How do you heal? What are the specifics? And so I'm imagining you're okay if people reach out to you.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm on Facebook. I'm not on there as much, but eventually I will find your message. Yeah, definitely. I'm open to anybody. Yeah. I mean, it's a lonely road. It's a lonely, painful, isolating road. But I always tell people, if I could heal, if I could heal, everyone can heal. Because I didn't, I lost hope for a while. I lost hope.
Easy to when you're so succumbed to so many different symptoms and you go from being a completely active, healthy, functioning doer type of a person to completely the opposite of that, what seemingly feels like overnight and
Yeah.
really no end in sight because the symptoms just are there every morning you wake up and it's like, oh, here we go again. Okay, I thought it was going to be a good day, but nope, here we go. And it's just, it is very challenging and concerning and like expensive
It's
I heard you
expensive.
say that you still have some debt from that. It took me a while to clear up my debt from it too. And I had a lot of shame associated to that debt because
Mm,
I just I was always taught debt was a bad thing. You don't want to be in debt. And it was like, oh man. And one of my therapists was like, you got to let go of that. Like God gave you what you needed to get to where you
mm-hmm,
needed to go, whether it
mm-hmm,
came as a debt or not. Like he gave you a vehicle to fix yourself and to be free from that part of your life. And so that really helped me to feel not as ashamed about it because stress is one of the biggest enemies to this symptom set,
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
having that constantly like nagging at me was terrible. And
Oh yeah.
I mean, I can remember many nights laying in bed waiting for them to come repo my car. Like that's how far
Mm,
behind I started to get with
mm.
things.
Oh
And it
gosh.
shouldn't be like that for people. Like we deserve quality
Yes.
of health and
Yes.
life and
Yes.
abundance. We do not deserve to be sick like this. And for
Yeah.
insurance to not really have skin in the game is
No.
tragic because I'm a
No.
good citizen. I'm sure you are. Like I pay my medical insurance every month. I don't use it for anything. This is a time that I really needed it.
I
And
know.
granted, it covered a few things, like some blood work, some of my
A
antibiotics,
few,
but
yeah.
the rest of the stuff, and I'm sure it probably didn't cover Mexico for you. Like,
No.
it's a
No.
lot of pocket, and you're just sort of sometimes blindly shooting in the dark at different things to fix yourself.
You are, yeah.
And it's hard to know, but I think for me, and maybe you can talk to this too, but like once you're on the right path, it's almost like you're being knows it. And so like certain things would not stick to me. Like somebody would talk about some kind of healing that they did and it would just be like, shh. Another
Mm-hmm.
time someone would talk about it, I'd be like, I need to do
Mm-hmm.
that. I need to do
Yes.
that. I need to do that. Like I somehow subconsciously or intuitively knew the ones that were
Mm-hmm.
going to be helpful to me or not. Did you have similar
Oh,
experience with
I'm
that?
so glad you brought that up. I just would also like to say that regarding, regarding debt involved in getting yourself better, I understand that component. I also want to add to say there's nothing more valuable than our health. And so, however we can get there, I would encourage anyone to get there. Yes. And as for,
You're making me laugh on that one. Sorry, but I was like, I was
yeah,
really thinking about putting myself out on the corner. Like, it's like,
yeah,
dude, if that's what I've got to do, like,
yeah,
I don't know if I can do it, but I'm gonna try. I even I
yeah,
started a fans only
I
page
know.
for feed things because I was like, okay, maybe I can earn some money this
I
way.
know.
But
Yeah.
within like 3 days, I had gotten so many gross messages. I was like, nope,
Oh, I
can't do this.
know.
But like, I
Yeah.
was desperate, right? Desperate.
Well, there's definitely no doubt about it. I'll answer that second question. I'm keeping it in my head, but there's no doubt about it. Our country is failing the Lyme community. I had let me say this, no idea what Lyme was.
Yeah.
Lyme was always like on the, just like, what it, I had no idea. And the thing that I am very grateful for, many, many things, but one of the things I'm very, very, very grateful for is that Lyme opened up something to me that I had no idea existed. A community of all of us working so hard to get our health back, our lives back. I would have not ever seen that community. So in that respect, I'm very grateful. But getting back to what you were saying earlier, I think that's so wise to trust your own body. We are the ultimate healers in all of this. So if something doesn't resonate with us, our body will guide us to where we need to go. That's our divine uh, right as human beings, is we've been given that. So I think that's important, to always stop and listen to that quiet, subtle voice that says, I believe that's God telling us what path we need to be on, where we need to go. I think that's important. It's really hard to hear when you're dealing with all this fear, because it's very fearful, but it's always there. That voice is always there.
Yes.
It's
And
hard
I
to
think
hear.
it can be a little bit challenging sometimes too to isolate. Like you were meditating ahead, so you're already more into that frequency and vibration of like listening to self and understanding self and knowing that that's God. I was listening to something the other day, and I've talked about this in the past, but when we pray, we're talking to God. When we meditate, that's God's time to talk to us. And so for people who are not even familiar with that world whatsoever, like I think it would probably be a little bit harder for them to hear that voice. But I think also counter to that is the some doctors' narratives, right? Like not every doctor understands this, not every doctor believes in it. And so you're going to have some doctors that tell you it doesn't exist, that it's all in your head. And if you're not clear and rooted in who you are as a person to know
Mm,
your own voice, like you're going to really struggle, I think, because we are trained to listen to what doctors tell us, to believe every word that a doctor tells us, because
mhm.
we all want to think they've got the best intentions, they've got the best information, the best knowledge. But when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, we're living in our own bodies. We know our own bodies the best, as much as the doctors want to help us. And that's why they became doctors. I like to believe they, again, still don't quite understand what's going on
They
within
don't.
themselves. And
Yeah.
we are really the ones that need to sit clearly with that and to figure that out. And one of the best ways to do that, I do think, is through meditation. And it can be challenging when you're not feeling well, or if it's not something that you're familiar with prior to, and it's like, oh, this is a bunch of woo-woo stuff, but I assure you it really isn't. And it does really give you that chance to hear what your body needs. So humans have survived for a very long time, and there's a reason for that. Like we ultimately, again, know what our body needs, and we look at a lot of the holistic healing modalities, a lot of the herbal remedies. These have been around for generations, and there's a reason why, because they work. And so it might be counter to that narrative again from doctors, but it is something that has been very beneficial to people, and we know that innately as humans that these things do work for us. And so you really have to get clear with yourself. And sometimes you're going to have to go against what your doctor might think is best for you, because they really aren't God. They don't know everything as much as they want to. And if it is a doctor who's telling you that this isn't something that's possible, if it doesn't exist, go find a different doctor, because you do know your body the best, and you deserve, again, to feel well and to have good health. And there are plenty of doctors out there that will be the right space for you to be in this
Mhm.
area to heal properly.
Yes, I agree.
Um, Something else that I wanted to ask you about a little bit too, you had mentioned about PTSD.
Mm,
And so uh, I know that this is something that I still struggle with a little bit myself, and just I try to really think about why. Do I have PTSD about getting bitten again? Do I have PTSD about just being sick again? Like what's really the right answer there? And I think ultimately it's just more fear of like going back into zombie zone or the zombie land, and like losing my ability to be in such good connection with myself. I think if I really sit truly with myself, that's ultimately what it is. When you talk about PTSD, what does that feel like for you, or what does that look like for you?
yeah, that is a huge uh, part of my daily existence even now, um, because because of the how it just came out of the blue. I mean, I think about that often, and I have gotten bitten several times because I live in the country, so
I was
can't
wondering about
always.
that too.
Yeah, so it's like it's a given. I can say, I feel as though I have an arsenal now. It makes me feel more confident in the fact that I don't see me going down that road again. I mean, so I think about that. That's part of the component to the PTSD. And so I just stop and remind myself, uh, you know, how far I've come, and also what do I have? What do I have to treat this? Well, ozone is a huge one for me. So I think, okay, I'm doing the ozone, okay. And I go through the list of things, I'm supporting my hormones, uh, nutraceutically, I'm doing the lipo-C, I'm doing the glutathione, I'm doing the heavy metal cleanse once, so I'm still doing these things. So it makes me feel not invincible or bulletproof, but it makes me feel like, oh, I have things that I am doing in case it happens. I think the larger component for me on the PTSD realm is the severity and the acute symptoms that I experienced all at once. That component is something I could easily go back to and feel again. And so that part I'm still working on. And a lot of that is being present and looking around and stopping and doing the neuroplasticity, exercises of saying, okay, where am I right now? This is where I am. Look at the light coming through the tree. Whatever it is, just focusing on that moment that you are there. So that PTSD, that in regards to that's been a tool that I use to kind of get through. Interestingly enough, the PTSD that I had around sleep was probably my worst symptom. And to this day, I go to bed and I feel I have a question like, am I going to sleep tonight? So I've had a lot of insomnia training. There you can get it online. You can pull it up on YouTube. Certain tools that you can use to recalibrate how you view sleep. So that's been really helpful.
Yeah. And I'm having the image of like, okay, so your immune system maybe had some weaknesses or gaps,
Mm-hmm.
and it was fighting that infection that was there,
Mm-hmm.
but held in space with the root canal that had been put there. It was released on the body, and it was just like breaking the dam open, and it was just like, well, okay, now I'm really in trouble here. And now you've done all of this groundwork to rebuild that foundation. And so I'm with you, and like that won't happen again for you because you've changed. And so if we're going back to the whole epigenetics discussion and thought, like if we've done the repair now, if you have a hole in a wall and now you've put the repair there, made it stronger than it was before, it makes it much more difficult for something to get through that. And
Yeah.
so, I don't know why it's just seeming like a very simple vision, but that's kind of what I'm like getting overwhelmed with that sensation right now of just like thinking about that.
Yes.
And so even if maybe we were to get bitten again or whatever, like our bodies are not in the same place that they were prior to this happening. We're a much stronger
Yes.
being. And so it should hopefully not impact us like that again because we've changed our genetic
Mm-hmm.
composition to be
Yes.
one of more of health. And I think that's one of a great gift that we can get through this is changing our being. Like I'm a completely different being than I was before this
Oh,
experience.
I totally, yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and getting goosebumps just thinking about that. It's like, okay,
Yes.
so maybe that's
Yes.
one way for us to shift a little bit of that PTSD. At least maybe for me it is. It's
Oh,
like,
that's yes. I like to hear those words
yeah,
because that's how I feel. Sometimes it's hard to put the words onto your feelings when you're so it's so intimate. Like you're like, okay, it's hard to step out and just, yeah, but everything you said, yes, I 100% agree with that. Absolutely. Yeah.
that feels a lot better to me when I think about that. And what kind of therapy, like, so you had mentioned going back earlier, much more towards the beginning, that you were doing some therapies and things now for soul spiritual repair. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Is that something that,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, so I find great refuge in nature. It speaks to me more than uh years of therapy. Although I think EMDR therapy is a good therapy for trauma, especially with the component of Lyme, like childhood traumas or physical traumas, whatever. EMDR is a great tool to kind of distance yourself from that initial trauma. And I think for me personally, I still have those feelings, but I'm not attached to them. Uh, like whatever that may look like, and that's part of my spiritual journey. So like, how am I? It's hard to explain. It's like when you see something that, okay, for instance, say you're driving in traffic, it's like a whole new rewiring of how you can react or respond. And I feel like the responding for me, for my health, is more healthy than our reaction. So like you say you're driving along and someone cuts right in front of you. I think a healthy response for me would be on a spiritual, I mean, a spiritual thread woven in my life would be like, oh, okay, someone just cut in front of me, and to see it, and you may feel that irritation just for like a split second, but I think it's been a good practice for me to become detached and just let that go by, because it doesn't ever feel good to hold on to judgment or irritation or anger or any of those things, which we're all going to feel. I mean, I think for me, my spiritual practice has been just seeing that and realizing, oh, I don't need to identify with it. I can respond to it. And that comes in many different forms. So it comes in relationships, it comes with work, um, our own self-talk, like that's part of it, that component of, oh, look, my self-talk doesn't feel very good to me right now. Interesting. I'm just observing it, shining light on it and being like, oh, okay. But that's part of my spiritual practice. And I tend to do that. I try to do it throughout the day. It's not always easy, but that's the practice part, right? So that becomes like your spiritual practice. I think it's a lot easier to set a time apart throughout the day where you can do like that meditation walking or slowing down the system and getting more into your vagus nerve and doing everything slowly, whatever that looks like. That's kind of a spiritual practice, and kind of turning that part on that's not often on, especially with Lyme, but also with everyday life, so yeah, anyway, yeah. So responding is what I try to bring more into my spiritual everyday practice of how I see like a problem. Like for instance, like the Wi-Fi this morning, it was like, well, I better get in touch with Anne because I'm not sure. I found myself just getting, texting you. And then I had to stop and go, okay, how can I respond to the situation instead of react to it? And you probably saw from my text, like, oh, she's really like serious about it. But I just want, it's a spiritual practice. Like, it's that kind of thing. I think that's been more instrumental in how my body feels, how my body resonates, vibrancy and health is how I respond to situations.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I often think it's not what happens to us, but how we react to it or we respond to it. And I like you're differentiating between react and respond. Like it's react to me all is more of like a constricting term. Responding is more of like an open vibratory term. And I'm starting to really appreciate when we think about certain words, that exact connection of what that word makes me feel inside my body reacting. It's like, rah! Like that's kind of what I feel like when I think about the word react versus respond. It's like,
yes,
like I can just respond to this and I'm to react to it. Like there's
yes,
much different emotions connected to words, even though they're very similar words with very similar meanings. Just
but
that
it
whole
feels
emotion.
different.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
So thank you for that. That's a really beautiful way to put that.
Yeah. And it's
And
work, practice.
always, everything is, right? Everything is practice, and
Okay.
yoga is practice. Being meditating is practice. Like people are like, I'm not good at this. And it's like, right, are you a really good basketball player the very first day that you decide you want to play basketball? Probably not. You need to practice. And so
Mhm.
it's the same thing with these spiritual exercises. We need to practice them, build the muscles up to sustain ourselves versus just expecting to be some guru right out the chute. Like it's not going to be like that, most likely. Maybe you were. Maybe you're that individual.
Maybe. Yeah, could happen.
Of course, everything is possible.
But most
But
likely.
typically speaking, no. And even gurus will talk about this, that they
Oh,
have to
absolutely.
practice. Like it's not something
Yes.
that comes even easy to them. They have
It's not second nature.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. And so through constant effort at a goal, we usually achieve what we've set our minds to. And that's the same with healing our bodies, right? Like it takes time and it's unfortunate, but I don't know if it's a fair analogy or not. I mean, it took me 7 years to get diagnosed. It took me 7 years to fix myself. I don't know if that's always even for people that way. Like, however long we are sick, it takes us that long to fix ourselves. But we didn't get sick overnight. And typically speaking, we're not going to heal overnight. And so you have to give yourself enough time and space. Space and grace is what I like to say. Give yourself
Mm.
space and grace
Mm-hmm.
to get there. Like, it's very frustrating to be going
Mm.
at this for years to try to fix yourself and feeling like you're just spinning your wheels. Like that's really hard. And I'm not sure what it is, if it's just such a minute change every day towards the better that we really don't notice it. And then suddenly one day we're like, oh, I feel so much better. Like I'm not sure if that's what happens for people, but you just have to keep going. You have to keep trying. You have to keep practicing.
Yes.
No matter what. And
Yes.
you and I both know from going through this how dismal it can feel, how dark it can feel. Like,
Never thought I could ever be someone, yeah, to feel all those things. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
to think that I
Horrible.
actually
It's horrible.
seriously unalive myself. If they, well, I don't know if we're allowed to say it the other way anymore. I just hear people saying unalive. Okay, so fine, we
Yeah.
unalive ourselves and
Yeah.
no longer be on this planet because it's overwhelming. It really
Mm.
is overwhelming, especially if you don't have people who believe you. With
Mm.
visible illness, it's very hard for people to see us when we're not well. Like,
Oh, yeah.
looking at people from like you had some, I think, probably visible symptoms that people would notice in terms of like the weight loss and just the shift in your personality so much from being a doer to not. But even with that, sometimes I don't know, people,
You're right. Yeah.
but like not everybody even has physical changes in their body that happen. So it makes it even harder for people to
Mm-hmm.
be in this space
Mm-hmm.
and just know that you've got to keep going. You've got to keep practicing. You've got to keep putting the effort into yourself because health is the greatest thing that we can have in our lives. I don't care what anybody else says about it, money, material things,
Mm.
fame, whatever anyone else thinks. No,
Mm-hmm.
you take
Mm-hmm.
their health away and they're going
Mm.
to quickly realize that that is the most
What's
important thing
important?
on the planet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, without health, all the other stuff goes out the window. I don't,
It's meaningless.
that's right. You
Yeah.
can't enjoy it because you don't feel well. And you just want to lay there in a ball and die. Like it's
Yeah.
tragic. So just keep pushing through, keep going, keep believing in yourself. If you need cheerleaders, there's two sitting right here. I've got 60 other podcasts that I've released, and there's 60 more cheerleaders right there. But one thing that you touched on is this community and really what a beautiful group of people it is. Like I've got a
It's
picture of
incredible.
I'm part of PA Lyme Resource Network. I'm a regional leader for that organization. And there's a group photo of us together, and I have it in my kitchen, and I look at it every day, and I just think about what amazing people that they are. And I'm just
Mm.
so thankful that I'm part of a group of people that have hearts as big as they do. And that's what you will find in this community is people who genuinely care, genuinely.
Warriors.
Well, that's right. And even you, like, I'm just listening to you, like, when you're talking about going to Mexico, crawling into a thing that's going to heat your body up to 108 degrees, and you're like, well, here it goes. Like, out of what other choice do I have? Like, I just
Mm-mm.
was thinking about like the fear and like whatever else you must have been feeling at that moment of time to put yourself into that space just kind of willingly like, okay, I give up. I give control over to God, and I'm just gonna go with this and have the faith that this is gonna be okay and safe and healing for me. But like, that's hard. It's
Hmm.
really hard, you know? I mean, to talk about
It's,
different things that are hard for people, like this is not easy work. This is not. And to sit with self and to look at self deeply on an introspective level and see us and come to allow us to be who we are with all of our words, all of our everything that we've got going on, like that's hard. That's
mm-hmm.
not easy. And
Mm-mm.
I think that's where a lot of the true healing comes from is when we are able to sit with self truly and remove all the masks, all the different things that we think we're supposed to be and we need to be. And we can say, no, this is who I really am. And I see myself and I allow myself to be who I am. And
Mm-mm.
that's huge. Um, so again, if you're out there listening to this, please know that you can do this. It might be the scariest thing that you've ever done in your life. It might be the hardest, may it be the hardest thing that you ever do, because I don't want anything to be harder. Like that was really hard. I don't
Mm.
want anything to be harder than that. Thank you. I got a good lesson out of that and then some. Um, but then, as two questions I think I've got yet for you. Would you choose to go through this experience again?
That is a question I asked myself. Oh, no, I actually wouldn't. No, I can honestly say absolutely no.
That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, some really 4 years out, I can look back and I can see a divine intervention working, and I can see uh, all these experiences help me become a better person, like we touched on earlier. Like I'm better. I feel like I'm better in so many ways. Like they say, don't sweat the small stuff, that kind of thing. Like I don't waste energy on anything anymore. Um, at least I try not to, but the majority of the time I'd say I don't. So I feel like I'm a better person, and I am grateful for a lot of what Lyme showed me, especially the Lyme community, especially these incredible individuals that I would have never known existed before. But if you were to say to me, would you like this again, or would you like to go on living your life? I think I would pick being 49 years old and going back to my life, to be honest. I would. Now, I would choose Lyme again if I knew I'd get to where I'm getting. But I wouldn't want to experience, I wouldn't ever want to experience what I did before. It's beyond words. And I know from talking to enough people, the it's just to feel inhuman, to feel like an alien has taken over every part of your body. Yeah, I would say no. I would say no. Yeah, I'll pass.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
it's
But
a
I mean, it's a hard question. It's a good question to ask because you can't you can't throw out, now it's become part of me, and going through what I went through is who I am today. So it's like I don't know. It's a good question. It's a really good question. It's hard to answer a yes or no to that.
it
So
is.
basically, in some ways I'd say no, in some ways I'd say yes.
Yes. I've thought about it plenty of times from many different angles like you, and it's again sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
about all the things that I got out of it, and sitting here now better is like,
Well, yeah, look at all. I mean, just look, like I said, when I was super sick, I would just, if I heard someone saying to me, hold on, you're going to get well, you're going to heal, it's going to take some time, that would buoy my spirits, and it would give me hope. But just think about all the hope you're giving to everyone that's listening. I mean, what you're doing, you can't, it's priceless. It's what you're doing is priceless. Giving someone hope is probably the most important thing to do. for us on the other side. It's probably one of the most important things to do, because they're getting no hope through our medical establishment, and it's not the medical establishment's fault. It's just, you know what you know, and it's what you've been trained to see. I mean, I went to the emergency room several times and I was told there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. So, I mean, yeah, so I thank you. Thank you for having this platform and giving people, sharing the stories that you've compiled from all of us. It's invaluable. Thank
Yeah.
you for that.
Thank you for that call out, because I know when I was very sick, I would crave stories like this. This is again why I've decided on this is a good fit for me and how to contribute back into this mess, right? Like I had books once my brain worked well enough again, books that I would read, stories I would hear, different people I would follow, just things that I could grab onto to set my sights to say, like, if that person can do it, I can do it. Like, I knew myself well enough to know I'm a determined human, and like once I get something in my head and I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And like that was just like my tackling fuel, or my food for my soul, was very important to hear these things. And again, without people like you sharing your stories, this podcast really doesn't have as much meaning, right? So I just appreciate people like you who are really willing to step up and step out and say, this is what happened to me. This is how I fix myself. This is what I just want you to hear these words so that your soul has some kind of hope to hold on to, because we do remember very well what it's like in the middle. And as my parting question for you, maybe you've already talked about this a lot, but what is the best thing that's happened to you as a result of getting Lyme and tick-borne illness?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot of things underneath there. The best thing, or can I list like 2 or 3?
But I don't mind if there's more than one thing. That's a good thing that happens to you because of this. That's great.
Okay.
Promise.
I would say the absolute best thing was that I realized I was much stronger than I ever thought possible. That was probably the best thing. The second thing was knowing about the Lyme community, and getting support from people that had been where I was, and them telling me that I could heal. And I remember at the time, I'm like, yeah, but were your symptoms this? Were they this? Were they this? Were they this? You mean you had the same symptoms and you healed? So I was always like finding, like, I didn't know enough about Lyme to realize it comes in many different forms. For many, or I should say many different expressions of symptoms. So I would say the Lyme community helped me through that tremendously. And I would say that the third best, if I'm going to list 3, but I could list more. The third best would probably be the wealth of information that I accumulated, that I'm able to help other people, like through Facebook, or my job is helping people in a health food store. So when people come in, I go, I wonder if you would be interested in this, finding a functional practitioner. They might be able to walk you through this, that kind of thing. So there's no better teacher than experience. And I'm very grateful in that respect, for that growth. And I'm still learning. There's so much to learn about, methylation pathways, about genetics, epigenetics. I mean, that's so intriguing. You could do like a whole podcast on that. Yeah, so those are the 3. I mean, if I were to limit it, that would be the 3. Yeah.
I love it. Thanks, Arden. Because again, I really want people to understand this is a very heavy thing, and a very just overwhelming sometimes. And so it's not all bad, right? Like, it's not all bad. There are a lot of good things that come out of it, but that's a particular reason why you need to hold on and keep
Mhm.
going, because
Mhm.
when you get to the space that I'm in, that Arden's in, you can look back and I mean, it was honestly one of the most beautiful things that I can think of that I've ever witnessed, just watching my own being go through that experience and come out on the other side, and all of the things that I've gained from it now that I can share with others like you. It's beautiful now. Like I'm just so thankful and I'm so grateful. But
Yeah.
it's hard. It's very, very hard in the middle. And again, just to get yourself to where you are in a space where you're feeling better again. But you can do it.
You
You
can do
absolutely,
it. You
absolutely.
can do it. You can heal.
Yes. Yes,
You can.
truly. And I know I told you that was the last question, but now I'm like, do you still have any lingering effects? Are you completely past? Awesome.
Zero zip.
Awesome.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I got retested. Of course, you know, the specific test of this is infecto. So it tells you if you have an active infection, um, no markers, no markers. So that coincided to how I was feeling. So that was nice. I mean, I wouldn't recommend retest. I would just see how you're feeling, and like we talked about, I'm back but better. So yeah, there's nothing lingering, nothing at all. And I didn't get there overnight. Oh my gosh. I noticed that there were, as I was healing, I was optimizing hormones, repairing my gut. Symptoms started to just kind of fall away, like, oh, that's gone. Oh, I don't have paresthesia on my left arm anymore, or my right, it would alternate. Or the front of my calves aren't extremely painful anymore, or my shins, I'm sorry. All those would fall away. I mean, I have my book somewhere. I must have listed 100 symptoms at any given time. And all those would just kind of slowly fall away and slowly fall away. And I started building up more muscle. I can work out now. I mean, I don't feel like I have a 10,000 pound weight vest to get from point A to point B. It's like my body feels light. All these symptoms just slowly started to just kind of sloth away. So it did take time, and that I didn't realize that it was going to take that much time. I think that. What about you? What about your experience? Did you think it was going to take, like, I know you had a much longer. You were dealing with it much longer than I dealt with it.
Definitely did not think it would take that long at all. Like my knowledge of Lyme when before I got diagnosed was you take 30 days of antibiotics and you're better. And so 7 years I was just blindly throwing darts at the board, hoping something would stick. And I I was at the health food store all the time asking them for help and what do I do and what's the matter with me? And they would give me adrenal support and they'd give me immune support and they'd give me lots of different things that they would think would try to help me. But until I actually got a concrete diagnosis, like it was very hard to formulate a plan. And then once I got it, I was like, great, I know about this. Like I just got
Mm,
to take some doxycycline and I'm going to be good again. And
mm,
little did I know, like she gave me 5 weeks my first pass with the antibiotics, and I did feel remarkably better. At least I felt like a human being again. And I could remember just sitting there on the couch crying because I felt human again.
mm,
And it was just
mm.
like, okay, thank you, God. Like this is gonna work. This is good. But then
Yeah.
maybe week 3 or
Mm,
so of my antibiotics, I
mm,
started to forget things again. And
mm,
with the bacterial replication, the cycle of that all kind of makes sense about why that potentially started to happen again around that time. And maybe it was under other factors, I don't know. But um, I went on antibiotics again, and then she gave me 3 more weeks after some more blood work. And then after that, I was doing okay. I got bit by a mosquito then the following year, and I did get a bullseye rash. It had to have been a mosquito. There's no way it was a tick because I'm like super hyper vigilant of my body. That's part of my
mm,
PTSD as well.
mm-hmm,
And I know there was not a tick there. I know it. And
mm-hmm,
so she gave me another round of antibiotics. And then after that, is when I started quick tick tips. That was my first effort at helping people learn more about it on social media. And I could see the Bell's palsy in the left side of my face. And I was like,
mm,
oh.
mm,
So then I
mm,
went to a Lyme specialist and that began really like I was with that lady for 2.5 years. I was on antibiotics for 2.5 years, doing a lot of herbal supplementation, different energy work, did a lot, you name it. And I mean, I changed everything about me. I changed my entire being. I promise, like things that touched my body, things that I put on my body, things that I put in my body, the habits that I have, the different mentality that I've got, like my whole perspective of life itself. And that's not a fast process. Like that's something that comes over time. Rome wasn't built in a day, is often what I think about. And again, it took me like 7 years to finally get rid of every remnant of symptom. And
Mm-hmm.
no, I definitely did not think it was going to be that much of a challenge to solve this problem, but
But you're
it's not.
there. Yeah. But you're there.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Thank God. And debt free now, thank God. And I'm
Oh, isn't that
so much faith
wonderful?
in that
Good for
whole,
you. Yeah.
yeah, but
I mean, there is nothing like health. One thing I do want to mention, I forgot to mention a book that really helped me,
yeah,
was Dr. Horowitz's book, How Can I Get Better? How Can I Get Better? I think it's How Can I Get Better? I think he has got two. Why am I not getting better? And how can I get better? If
yeah,
my memory serves me correctly. But that book opened up, like that was one of my aha moments, like, okay. So in regards to hormone replacement, actually, um, he mentions in his book, he's like, and if you have the patient that's doing all these things and still not feeling better, let's look at replacing hormones. So
yeah,
that was a good one. Good
yeah.
piece of advice.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you and I applaud you and I see you and I just know all of the things that you had to do for yourself to get yourself better. And this is not an easy walk. And God chooses us for a reason to go through this experience. And I'm just really grateful that you're able to sit where you're at now and give back
Me
into the
too.
community and to share your wealth of knowledge in the capacity that you do. And gosh, what a soft place that you're giving people to land at the health food store. Like I had no idea that's what you do, but it's like, well, that's a great job. Like,
It is. It's a great job. It's
totally.
one of my most rewarding jobs, to help guide people to nutraceuticals that can, and diet changes and all that, to help them feel better. It's just the most rewarding job. So I'm very grateful to be here, and thank you so much, Anne, I just really appreciate you. Thank you.
My pleasure. This is very mutual, and that's what it's often these interviews that I do with people. Like you've given me a lot of things to think about for myself, and I know many of my guests will tell me like how healing it is for them to come on here, and I never even thought about that when I started the show. Like I just thought about again sharing hope for people, but it's also really healing for me to hear these experiences, to be able to
Mhm.
just know that I'm not alone, that there are so many other people out there like me that have figured out a way to get better. And I'm just still thinking about um, that image in terms of like, well, the foundation was really weak before, really repaired it now. And so I'm going out and I'm not going to have those weak points and susceptibilities anymore. Like I've completely changed my being. Like that was very, again, simple but transformational for me in just this time that we spent together. And I feel like this renewed strong front to like tackle nature again and to not be so freaked out to stand in the grass and to go outside. 'Cause, like
I know.
if I'm being
Yeah.
honest, even yesterday I went for a walk with my best friend and my goddaughters, and she's like, "Well, let's go to the park." And I was like, "As long as we can be on the macadam, I think I can do it." You know, and like I
Yeah.
love to be outside. I love nature. It is one of the best gifts God's given to us, and it's such a beautiful, magical place for me to be. But like, I have a hard time, and so thank
I
you
hear you.
for having this conversation with me because it's also given me again like a renewed okay, different perspective, different feeling in my body about that. And I
Mhm.
feel so much stronger now. So just, I really enjoyed this conversation
Me
tremendously.
too. Yeah, I did too. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
absolutely. And I just wish you much continued success, health, and abundance on your way. And I'm glad, again, people, if you're interested to reach out to Arden, she is on Facebook. And I would encourage you to, if you have questions about her experience specifically with the facility in Mexico or anything like that, please do talk to her because clearly, as you can hear through this interview, she's definitely got a good grasp of this, some very good knowledge and information that she can share with you. And it just appreciate you tremendously, Arden. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Anne. You take care.
You.
Bye bye.